I'm going to outline a plan to save the United States. It's going to be peaceful, but powerful. It's going to involve everyone who sees the danger that the United States is facing and would like to help save our freedom and our democracy. The first part of the plan is a convocation of veterans. That means a gathering of veterans in Washington, D.C. Not just a protest march, not an encampment, but an occupation, a meeting of the veterans of the military, all branches of the United States of America, for the purpose of upholding their oath to defend the Constitution, the people, and the government of America from domestic enemies, but not with any form of violence and not as an insurrection, but fulfilling the legal constitutional obligations of their oath. And really, whether the rest of us have taken the oath or not, I feel it's our duty as citizens of the United States to defend the Constitution as well. But we will play a different role. We will be the support. So think about it. When our veterans went overseas to war, they were on the battle lines facing the enemy. But the rest of the citizens were providing their weapons, their food, their housing, their transportation. Now, in this case, we're not going to have any weapons at all because they're not needed. And I'm going to explain why. So, any oath to defend the Constitution implies an obligation to defend the truth. I'm going to tell you why that's so important. Think for a moment. Think back to that mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th. They regarded themselves as patriots because they believed that the election had been rigged, and that they believed it had been a fraudulent election, and that their president, they believed, was going to continue to be Donald Trump. So they were, in their eyes, patriots. They were fighting for freedom and democracy in their mind because of the set of so-called facts that they had been fed, that they believed. So you can see on both sides, we've got good American citizens doing what they think is right. It's not a conflict in the lower ranks of the regular everyday American citizen. It's not a conflict between good people and evil people. It's two groups of good people that have been fed opposing stories of what reality is, of what the facts are. So we don't want to use violence. It's as if when you're on the battlefield, if one of the soldiers or a group of the soldiers gets surrounded or trapped somehow by the enemy, that doesn't make them the enemy. And we do everything we can to pull them out. So if a large group of our American citizens have been surrounded and trapped by lies, then it's not guns and cannons and tanks that we need to destroy them. It's the truth to free them from the prison camp of lies. We're going to use both truth and love to free our country, not bullets and sabers. So, the purpose of the convocation of veterans in Washington, D.C., and I'm not talking about for a weekend, I'm talking about we're going there, our numbers are going to continue to grow every day, and we are going to build a consensus because the oath to defend the Constitution implies an oath to discover and defend the truth. Because if you don't know the truth, if you don't know the true facts, you can't distinguish who is the domestic enemy and who isn't. And you've got one group who believes a certain version of reality, thinking that the other group is a domestic enemy. And that group believes a different version of reality, a different explanation of what occurred, and they think the first group are the domestic enemies. So we have to get to the truth, and everyone who has taken the oath is bound by that oath to be willing to make a good faith effort to investigate the conflict, ascertain the real facts, and defend them, and proclaim the truth. Who is the domestic enemy and why? That is the purpose of the Veterans Convocation on their oath to defend America from domestic enemies. When it's foreign enemies, you get into a physical battle and you use weapons to fight them. When it's a domestic enemy, you use truth and love. Because it's love for the people who are fellow American citizens who have been fooled. And I'm not telling you this one's been fooled and this one hasn't. What I'm saying is, as a American citizen and as fellow veterans, I'm not saying I'm a veteran, but you guys who are fellow veterans, amongst yourselves, what the oath requires is that you are willing to make a good faith investigation into the issues that the conflict is based on, ascertain the facts. So you have to be willing to investigate. You have to be willing to admit the truth when the facts are presented to you. If you're not, you are a domestic enemy. If you're not willing to sit down with the other veterans who disagree with you, and as friends, as fellow American citizens, as fellow brothers and sisters in arms, have a respectful discussion where you sincerely and in good faith investigate any issues of disagreement and ascertain the facts. You have to be willing to investigate, or you are a domestic enemy because you're not defending the Constitution. You're breaking your oath. You have to be not only willing to investigate, but you have to be willing to admit the truth when the facts are shown to you. Otherwise, you are breaking your oath and you are with the domestic enemies. You see, the domestic enemies are the ones who are lying to the people of America. Because the people of America are the governors, the rulers, all of us. When America was founded, the catchphrase was, "Every man a king." Because in the old days, or in the previous regimes, there was one king ruling over everyone else. America was founded so that all of the citizens form the government. And all of the citizens, every one of us, is a king or a queen. We're the rulers of the government. And I say this, I point this out because let's look at the old system where there was one king and he ruled everybody else. If one of his trusted ministers came along and said to the king, "Hey, look, there's this town out there on the beach where these people are doing all these terrible things. And so we need to march the soldiers in there and get rid of them." So the king, trusting his minister, uses the power of the state and the military to go in there and, deprive these people of their homes and property and everything. Well, then the minister goes and builds a beachfront resort. So these people were never guilty of anything in the first place, right? It was because the king believed the lie that he took the action. So that so-called trusted minister usurped the power of the government for his own profit and exploited and deprived that group of citizens of their human rights. If you lie to the king in order to convince him to make a decision that uses the power of the state to your benefit, you have usurped the power of the king or of the government. You've taken over. You're actually the one who's in control because of your lies. We can't have that in America. If you lie to the citizens, you are usurping the power of the government for your own ends. That's treason. That can't be allowed. So, if you want to identify, you've taken an oath to defend the Constitution, the government of the United States, the people of the United States from domestic enemies, you have to use the truth to determine who has been lying to the American people in order to usurp the power of the government. The weapon is not bullets or sabers. The weapon is truth. And the other weapon in our arsenal is love. Not only the camaraderie with all your fellow veterans to be able to, even if you start off in opposite camps of what you believe to be true, but to be able to sit down as brothers in arms and discuss it respectfully in a friendly way, because you're only trying to save the United States and its people. So there's that aspect of using not only truth, but love. But also, I envision this convocation will be, at times at least, meeting en masse at the Capitol or surrounding the Capitol, not in any threatening way, but to become a presence that the media cannot ignore, so that the findings of the veterans of the military of the United States of America will be made known to the people. Here is what we discovered to be the truth and the facts. And here are the people who we have discovered have been lying and are domestic enemies. And in order to be heard so that they can't ignore what's being said by the veterans, we need the largest group possible in the most prominent place possible. And at the same time, not only speaking truth to power, but within the convocation and the encampment surrounding the Capitol, there could be such a feeling of brotherly and sisterly love that anyone who walks into that field of vibrations that this group of veterans creates will feel the love, the safety, the peace, and the honesty. And feeling that vibration, they will notice the difference between that feeling within that community and any other community in the vicinity that they walk into that is full of lies and deception. And that brings me to another main point of this, which is I want to express to all veterans and really to all people that this is a different kind of attack. This is vibrational war. The only way to win this, to win or defend our freedom and our democracy from this kind of adversary, is to recognize that we're in a vibrational war and to stand strong in the vibrations of love and truth. I keep hearing in my head the announcer when I was a young boy watching the original Superman television show, the announcer saying that Superman fights for truth, justice, and the American way. So we have to fight for truth. We have to fight for justice. And what is the American way? The American way is caring about other human beings. There's all this talk now of these tech bros who want to run America like a corporation. Well, you know what corporations do is they do not care about the individual human being. They will just fire thousands of people all at once with no regard to how that's going to impact each individual life, each individual family, the wives or husbands, the children, the other members of the family. No regard to that, only what serves the corporation. And do we want our nation to be run like a heartless, inhumane corporation? Or are we a group of human beings who freed themselves from thousands of years of tyranny by the 0.01% who lived in lavish luxury while everyone else was slaving away? When America was founded, humanity freed itself from that finally and established a beachhead of freedom and peace and sanctuary for all humanity. That's what it was about. That's the American way. So, the first step is to create a GoFundMe or some kind of way of raising the money to provide for the food, shelter, and transportation of the veterans who are willing and volunteering to come to a veterans convocation in Washington, D.C. So they're on the front lines doing this work of a good faith investigation into the truth and holding the vibration of love, speaking truth to power, and being such a large gathering that they cannot be ignored by the media. That's what the veterans are doing. And all of those who cannot come to the convocation can support this effort through a GoFundMe or whatever kind of donation system is set up to provide material support to the veterans engaged in saving our country. I'm going to outline a plan